What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to talk about what's happening to EB-01, the Memorial Collection. Now, annoyingly, for most of you, this has now been out a couple of weeks. Not for me. Oh, no. Not for poor old Wassy stuck in the UK. It has not been out for a couple of weeks. It's actually still next weekend that it comes out. As a fun little side note, I'm not here next weekend. I'm travelling. I have been here for the last couple of weekends when it has been out. Should have been out but got delayed. But look, as I've said a million times before, Bandai are a profit-making company, as are all TCG companies. They want to make money. They want to release this because they've already paid to have it printed and shipped and all of that. But they're not getting the money from consumers paying it. Believe me, they want it on store shelves as much as we do. They have paid the money and are not currently recouping it. Yes, I'm a little bit upset that it's not in the UK yet, but what am I going to do? It's not out yet. It'll be out soon. You know what's going to happen when it does come out? I'm going to buy a bunch because I like EB-01. But because it's out in some territories, basically anywhere that isn't the UK, we can have a look at what's happening to prices. And most of it, not all, there are 3 notable exceptions. But mostly what is happening here is, oh my word, prices are crashing. And that shouldn't really surprise anyone too much. Firstly, this always happens on the release of a new set. But secondly, remember that EB-01 is a small set. So even the chase cards are going to come out more often than normal. Take Manga Tony Chopper. Now, this one has actually started going back up again. What happens is, it started off at 720, crashed to 620, it is now up to like 650-ish. It's a little bit all over the place. The last 3 souls are a little bit all over the place. But generally speaking, you have a look at this, and although it's gone up a little bit since the crash, this is still significantly lower than when it launched. Which is a little bit weird, because, of course, this should be in line with something like Manga Zorro, as an example. And Manga Zorro has not gone this low. Like, Manga Zorro literally has not gone as low as this card is now. Manga Zorro has been falling basically since it was released. Check out the graph from TCG Play here. And it's still at about a $900 card. Yes, I know that the market price says $1,200, but look at the most recent sales. It's like a $900 card. Maybe you could argue $1,000. It's never been as low as Chopper is, and it's been out for a bit longer. Fair bit longer. And that's kind of my point here. Yes, fine, it might have gone slightly up a little bit more, but Manga Chopper started low and has actually fallen fairly significantly since. And this is what we're seeing with all of them. Most of these prices have crashed, honestly, kind of hilariously. Like, one of the cards which I looked at the other day was Kyros. And the reason I looked at this was I told you I like this leader. I like the artwork. I like how it matches with the OP-04 Rebecca. And I told you that I really like this card and I would 100% be picking up this card for what it's worth, probably in Japanese and English. But I told you there was absolutely no way I was paying $50 for this card. I told you $50 for this card was ridiculous. Yeah, it's like a $20 card now. When I say crashed, I mean crashed. Most sets crash on release. That is a standard thing that happens because there's more supply out there and that just causes everyone to go, oh, I can't sell my card for as much now. Oh, that's really annoying. Never mind. But even compared to most sets, EB-01 has proper job crashed. The other card that I've really got my eye on as a card from this set that I simply must have is the alternate art Laboon. Partly I like Soso's artwork, partly I like Laboon. But I told you the other day that like $25 for this card was absolutely absurd. Yes, $10 card. And don't get me wrong, right? I think the artwork is amazing and I'm a big Laboon fan, but it's not a hugely playable card. It's not great in that regard. And I'm not sure everybody out there is clamoring for this Laboon card like I am. I was never going to buy this on release, but in a couple of weeks' time, I'm finally going to get my English boxes in the UK. And when that happens, maybe I'll pull Laboon. If I don't, I'm heading straight on to Card Market or somewhere like that. I'm picking up Kyros and the Boon. They are crashing. The other so-so art card is, or the alternate art is Tony Chopper. Now, this went from 35 down to 25 and is now up again at 30. This hasn't crashed like some of the others, but also, it's Chopper, it's decent artwork, and it is a playable card. Unlike, say, Laboon and Kyros, that we kind of know at this point are not particularly awesome, this is particularly awesome. We've got a card here that has Blocker, and Don X2 when attacking, give one of your opponent's characters minus 3k during this turn. Fits really nicely into red-purple lore from starter deck 10. Because, of course, it can be played for free by lore, but it also lowers your opponent's power, which can then let you get a more powerful character with lore skill. Both parts of this actually work beautifully with lore. So yeah, that's quite nice. And we are seeing this across the board. Kozuki Oden, that was the quote-unquote big leader from the set. It's gone down from 65 to 30. This is the big leader from the set, but as I've told you a couple of times in these videos, EB-01 has not given us a good leader. Following the results coming out of Japan, EB-01 just did not give us a good leader. None of these three made any real noise over in Japan in time they were legal. And I'm not saying that you can't find the odd small tournament here or there that was won by these cards. You probably can. But I'm telling you, if you look at the metagame as a whole, they've really not made much of an impact. So, yeah, it's Kozuki Oden, and the artwork on Oden is also absolutely stunning. But remember, there's only 3 alternate art leaders. So firstly, the alternate art leaders should be coming out twice as often as they do in a regular set, and they're not terribly playable as well? Yeah. When you combine the fact there are fewer cards, so the pull rates naturally have to get a bit better, with the fact that these leaders just aren't playable, and there we go. Now, the one which I was absolutely adamant about on release was Mr. 2 Boncray Bentham. Now, here's a weird one. Started off as $50, now got a market price of $40, but the last few solds are back up to about $50. This one is taking some time. Now, we have seen a drop, as predicted, but we have then seen a rise which has basically kind of gotten rid of the drop. And here's the thing. This is a really, really good card. On play, you add a Don from your Don deck active, so it's essentially a free cost. You need to have 4 Don to play it, but then you get one of them back, so it's basically a free cost. But then you've got an extra Don ready to use for the following turn, so you're also ramping up Don. And when attacking, select one of your opponent's characters, and this character's base power becomes the same as that rested character. So, yeah. You can basically put 1 Don on here and guarantee to outpower any of your opponent's characters, unless they've been, multiplied by loads and all of that. It's really good. But it's the only secret rare in the set. Usually sets have 2. So it is going to come out twice as regularly as others. So I refuse to believe this can possibly hold value like that. Like, up till now, if we think about the really good secret rares, Katakuri springs to mind. Now, to be fair, that is currently about a $70 card. I'll give you that. But it has been as low as 30 shortly after release. And this has proven to be a phenomenal card for a long period of time. And it's in a set where it comes out half as often because there's another secret rare in the set. Katakuri has got a lot going for it that, frankly, Bentham doesn't. And for that reason, I do feel fairly confident that this just cannot outpace Katakuri. And right now, it is outpacing Katakuri. Katakuri didn't really start getting up to like $50 until 4 months after the release of OP-03. And bearing in mind, OP-03 had much bigger shortages than we're seeing nowadays. So I'm just saying, keep an eye on this one. It did go down on release. It has gone back up again since, but it still seems too high. So generally speaking, they are all going down. Like, I've shown you a few examples. I could show you some more Charlotte Flampe if you want another example. has absolutely crashed from $150 as a pre-sale, which we know the pre-sale are too high, but it dropped down almost immediately to 75 and has since gone down to 50. And this is a great card, counter plus 2k, and on play you can add a card from the top or bottom of your life to your hand and draw a card, i.e. 2-card swing, you get 2 extra cards in your hand, but no. 150, even 75 was ridiculous, and I think 50 is still way too high. So don't expect this one to hang up here, but it has been crashing. I could show you another like 20 cards and show you that they're crashing. Generally speaking, they are. Like I've said, the Boncray Bentham has gone down and back up again, but there are free cards that have actually gone up. There are free cards that are bucking the trend and are just generally doing really well. And one of them is the alternate art of Boncray Bentham. Now, here's what's important about this one. It is still just as playable as I pointed out a minute ago, but it's got Nami artwork. Yes, it's Boncray Bentham, but it's Boncray Bentham as Nami, so yeah. Make no mistake about it, this has everything going for it. This is a rare kind of card. It's super playable, and it's got ridiculous artwork, so people are going to want it if it's not playable, but it is also super playable, and it has actually jumped up since release, starting at about 110, currently sitting at about 135. This is an exception. Now, I still think it's going down. I still wouldn't buy it now. Again, for any advice on your old pal, we'll see nothing more. It is an alternate art secret rare, but again, it is the only alternate art secret rare in the set. And it's not out everywhere, it's not released in the UK, etc. yet. I would still hold my horses, but this one, if it does end up being a massive exception, I do kind of get it, it does make sense. Now, another exception we've got here is Kid and Killer. It's gone up from $50 to $65. Not a huge jump, but a jump nonetheless. Well, it's an alternate art, which is relevant. It's got Kid and Killer, who are 2 moderately popular characters, which is relevant. But also, it's another pretty playable card. There is going to be a theme here, incidentally. You've got Rush, and when attacking, if your opponent's got 2 or fewer life cards, you gain 2k this turn. So basically, if your opponent's got 2 life or less, it's a 7k with Rush. Now, I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but 7k with Rush sounds pretty gosh darn good to me. And it's got Kid and Killer, and I suppose you can mention Heat's hanging out in the background as well. And that kind of explains it. The one which makes a little bit less sense here is Brook. Since release, now Brook started at $25, went down to $23, and has gone up to about $30. One of the things you need to remember about Brook is that the y-axis is like $8 top to bottom. It has gone up, but it isn't like Bentham, for instance. Yes, there has been a jump, but it's a modest jump based on the fact that actually the high and low are still pretty close together. And the reason that this one doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me, we've got Japanese prices. And one of the things we can always look at here is we can have a look at what's going on in Japan. And we could take a look at something like the alternate art Boncray Bentham, for instance, and we can look at that and go, oh, it's a decently high card. It should be the highest alternate art, although for what it's worth, that card in Japan, and Japanese singles tend to be cheaper, right? I've told you this before, this is not new information, but that Bentham over in Japan is a 7,000 yen card, which comes out as a $45 card. Still expensive, but also makes our prices look a bit ridiculous. And we can see in Japan that Laboon is a very low card. Brook is not that high. Brook is like an average alternate art from the set. It should be right in line with Cavendish, for instance. Which, incidentally, Cavendish is another one of those. I'm not showing you the graph. It's gone down. You know it's gone down. They've all gone down, except for these couple of exceptions. So Brook is a little bit higher than it should be, but again, the jump is a lot more modest than it might look. You need to look at the scale on the y-axis there. And it's a decent enough card on play and when attacking. Give one of your opponent's characters -1 cost and then KO a 0 cost. Decent card, don't get me wrong. Is one of the ones I pulled from my Japanese boxes, incidentally. but it's not exactly some phenomenal card, you have been warned. And that's it in terms of the cards jumping up. Bonclay Bentham makes sense, but it is still higher than it should be. Kid and Killer makes sense, but it's higher than it should be. And Brook kind of makes sense, but again, it is higher than it should be. I do expect these cards to come down over time. Remember, with the delays in some territories like the UK, EB-01 has not actually had a full release yet. We are already seeing almost all of the cards proper job crashing in price. There are a couple of exceptions. I've told you and explained them, and now it's over to you guys. If you've been able to get EB-01 so far, what have your pulls been like? Have you been picking up singles? Have they been fun for you? Have you got some good deals? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And do please consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.